Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Chalk up another victory for the Trump administration and a loss to the state of California and illegal immigrants. California is set to revoke commercial driver's licenses over 17,000 immigrants after pressure from the Trump administration. There's trouble in paradise, DNC paradise, that is. Over at the Democrat National Committee, staffers are furious. Yes, furious after being told by their own chairman that they'll need to come back to the office 5 days a week starting in February. 2 years ago, soon after the attack on Israel by Hamas, I was able to visit the first kibbutz that was savagely attacked by the terrorists, pretty much destroying this small village of hardworking Israelis. That community is now starting to rebuild. I have the story for you, as told by the New York Post. And Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette joins us with her response to the federal government reopening and the damage that the Democrats have already caused.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So breaking news out of the state of California. They're being forced to revoke 17,000 commercial driver's licenses. That's right, 17,000 CDLs after pressure from the Trump administration and the U.S. Department of Transportation. It's a stunning move that shines a bright light on how deep this problem, the problem of illegal immigration and lax enforcement, has run inside the blue state bureaucracies, and how the Trump administration's return to law and order is starting to clean house. So here's the story. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy didn't mince words when announcing his action. He said, and this is a quote, "After weeks of claiming they did nothing wrong, Gavin Newsom and California have been caught red-handed. Now that we've exposed their lies, 17,000 illegally issued trucking licenses are being revoked. This is just the tip of the iceberg." And I imagine that it is. So let's back up a minute. The Department of Transportation discovered that California's DMV had issued thousands of commercial licenses that allow someone to drive an 18-wheeler, a semi, or even a school bus to individuals whose immigration authorization had expired. Now, under federal law, every CDL holder must meet strict residency and eligibility requirements. So when the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration reviewed California's licensing records, it found major compliance problems. According to federal officials, more than 1 in 4 of the non-domiciled CDL records sampled in California failed to comply with federal regulations. Now, that's not a small clerical error. That's a systemic breakdown. And remember, these aren't ordinary driver's licenses. These are commercial licenses, the kind of credentials that let a person operate 40-ton trucks, haul hazardous materials, or transport school children. So when Secretary Duffy says this is just the tip of the iceberg, he's not exaggerating here. President Trump has made it clear from day one that American highways should be driven by legal, qualified, and accountable drivers, not individuals who slip through the cracks of California's sanctuary system. And the move comes just weeks after several horrifying incidents that put this issue into sharp national focus. In Florida, an illegal immigrant, trucker named Harinder Singh, who crossed into the U.S. in 2018, was charged with 3 counts of vehicular homicide after allegedly making an illegal U-turn on a restricted access road. 3 innocent people were killed in that crash. Investigators later determined that Singh had failed both English language and road sign tests that are mandatory under the federal law for all CDL applicants. And just days later, another man, Jasharpreet Singh, also an illegal immigrant from India, was charged in California with vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, accused of causing a fiery wreck that killed 3 people on I-10. So when Secretary Duffy says, my team will continue to force California to prove they have removed every illegal immigrant from behind the wheel of semi-trucks and school buses, I think you can count on the fact that he means business. Of course, Governor Gavin Newsom, never one to miss an opportunity to pick a fight with the Trump administration, fired back on social media, accusing Duffy and the DOT of spreading lies. Newsom's office claims the licenses were not illegally issued, but rather inconsistent with state law, and that the individuals who received them were legally present in the U.S. at the time that they were issued. He even accused the federal government of applying retroactive rules that didn't exist when the licenses were granted, claiming that the FMCSA was unfairly changing the standard after the fact. But Duffy wasn't buying it. He responded, we've said all along the Department of Transportation is reprimanding California for violating original rules. My emergency rule came as a consequence, in part, for California's total disregard of those federal laws. It was that bad, he said. So while Newsom plays politics, the federal government is moving forward to enforce the law. The tragic reality is that these licensing lapses have already cost lives. The Department of Transportation revealed that during its post-crash interview with driver Harhinde Singh, the man could correctly identify only 2 of 12 verbal questions and 1 of 4 road signs. And this guy's out there driving. He shouldn't even be driving a moped, let alone a commercial vehicle. Think about that. A man driving a 40-ton semi-truck on our highways who could not read basic traffic signs. Who wants to be on the road with him? That's not just incompetence. That's criminal negligence by the state of California. And remember, these are the same officials who proudly declare California a sanctuary state, and they're very proud of that fact, who hand out benefits and privileges to illegal immigrants while turning their backs on the rule of law. Now, those decisions have put real Americans in danger. Those decisions have actually cost lives. This is what happens when politics trumps public safety, pun intended. California's leadership has spent years ignoring federal immigration laws, issuing driver's licenses to illegal immigrants refusing to cooperate with ICE and bragging about defying federal authority, particularly the Trump administration. But when you're talking about 80,000-pound rigs barreling down interstates, it's not just political, it can be deadly. The Trump administration's move to revoke these 17,000 CDLs is about restoring accountability. It's about enforcing federal standards and making sure that only qualified lawful drivers operate commercial vehicles on our roads. It's also a warning. It's a warning shot to other states that have flirted with similar policies. As Duffy put it bluntly, we will continue to ensure that every illegal immigrant is removed from behind the wheel of semi-trucks and school buses. The entire controversy gets to the heart of one of the biggest divides in America right now. Do we have a nation of laws or a nation of exceptions? California's attitude that it can rewrite federal law to suit its political agenda isn't just unconstitutional, it's just downright dangerous. And for years, federal agencies looked the other way. Not anymore. This administration is reasserting what every American already knows instinctively, that our roads, our borders, and our laws must be protected. Because if a state can hand out trucking licenses to people who aren't even supposed to be here, what's next? Pilots, bus drivers, law enforcement officers, which actually we've seen some of that, haven't we? There has to be a line. And under President Trump, that line is being drawn again, and it's going to be enforced. So as California scrambles to explain itself, the rest of America can breathe a little bit easier knowing that someone is finally paying attention to the details that matter. This isn't politics. It's about safety. It's about sovereignty. It's about common sense. And that's what we need in government right now is a little more common sense, right? 17,000 licenses may be just the beginning. And it may not sound like a lot, but I think this is a start. And as Secretary Duffy said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. For years, we've been told that enforcing immigration law is somehow cruel or unchristian. But you know what's truly cruel? Turning a blind eye until innocent people die in a fiery highway crash that could have been prevented. That's what's cruel. This is about putting American lives and American law first. This is about America first. This is about the movement that Donald Trump led and which the American people last year responded in a big way. Joey Hudson here, and this is it. PhD Weight Loss is running their best deal ever for Black Friday, and it's happening right now. They're waiving your consultation fee, adding 2 free weeks to your program, and even covering the cost of your food. Just mention the promo code BESTDEAL when you call, and you'll get a discount I can't even say on the air. Every year, the holidays hit, the pounds creep on, and by January, we're all back at the gym. But what if you could finish the year already feeling lighter, stronger, and more confident? That's what happens with PhD Weight Loss. Their metabolic reset system teaches your body to burn fat first, naturally and sustainable. I lost over 30 pounds with PhD, and it changed everything. My coach helped me through travel, holidays, parties. I actually enjoyed the season and lost weight. So don't wait. For Black Friday only, they're offering their best deal ever. Consultation free waived. 2 free weeks. Their 5 steps to reset the scale book, and your food is absolutely covered. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Mention best deal or visit online at myphdweightloss.com. On the text line, hey Joey, it's Jennifer. Yes, I am collecting and saving my pennies. I bought a big fat pink piggy bank to put them in. It's a trusted place, a feeling left over from my childhood. Of course, Jennifer is responding to my conversation yesterday about the idea that yesterday was the last time that the U.S. Mint minted any pennies. Pennies or no more. No more pennies because they cost too much. I forget the exact number, but each penny costs like 3.95 cents or something like that. Appreciate the text, Jennifer. Pete says, Joey, now that the shutdown is over, if people are free on Saturday, come on out to the site of the first land battle for the American Revolution 250 years ago in the South. The one-day event is at the historic 96. We'll be at historic 96. Since you'll be in Greenwood Friday, pop on in. We'll appreciate that invite. Yeah, I'll be at Greenwood over with my buddy John McCravey for their 30th anniversary of his law firm. So come on by and see us. Fat Daddies will be there with their food truck with some great barbecue. It's easy to find. It's on the bypass in Greenwood, right between Applebee's and Zaxby's. So come on over, say hello to Representative John McCravey and the rest of the team there, and yours truly will be there as well. Have you heard about this story that perfectly sums up what's wrong with the Democrat Party today? They want to run your life, but they don't even want to show up for work. At the Democrat National Committee, staffers are furious after being told by their own chairman that they'll need to come back to the office 5 days a week starting in February. Now, I've heard some other people, other companies, who are also mandating that their employees be back in the office. And I'm thinking, why do you have to be told this? And why are you upset when you are asked to come to your place of employment? I mean, COVID just really messed this up, didn't they? I mean, with the stay-at-home working that was allowed, the remote working that was allowed during the pandemic, people have just gotten spoiled. If I run a business and you're working for me, I want you in the business. But not the Democrats. The same party that says democracy is on the line, the same people who spent years demanding that Americans get back to work and rebuild the economy are now melting down because they have to leave their couches and actually clock in now and go to work. This all came about during an all-staff Zoom meeting. DNC Chairman Kevin Martin announced a new policy, full in-person work for all Washington, D.C.-based staffers. The reaction? Utter chaos. The DNC staff union, yes, they have a union, released a statement calling the decision shocking and callous, accusing Mr. Martin of disregarding valid concerns. Well, what valid concerns could you possibly have for not wanting to go to your office and work, the place that you collect your check from? They even blamed the economic conditions created by the Trump administration as if inflation, high rents, and gas prices suddenly make it too dangerous to work from an office, which their party created to begin with. You can't make this stuff up. These are the same Democrats who spent the last 4 years telling small business owners, truckers, nurses, and teachers that getting back to work was doing your part. But boy, when it's their turn to do that, that's oppression. It's not fair. This isn't just a minor HR dispute. It's another sign that Democrats are at war with themselves. Martin told his staff that returning to in-person work would help with brainstorming and quick decision-making as they prepare for the 2026 midterms. Look, let them stay home. I don't care if they are prepared for the 2026 midterms. Do you? I mean, that sounds like common sense to me. If you're running a major political party and you have a major election coming up next year, you may want to be involved in the process. You may want to sit at that conference table and bounce off ideas. But again, let them stay home. Maybe we'd be better off if they did stay home. I mean, really, you can't run a national political campaign at home in your pajamas. But apparently that's too much for the DNC's unionized workforce. Remember, these are the same activists who pride themselves on being the party of workers. Yet they've unionized against their own employer, the Democrat Party itself. They even said that they're now considering their options. In other words, more protests, more drama, maybe even a strike. Look, I got a good idea. Maybe they could strike next November in 2026. All of this because they're being asked to go to work. Reports say that during the call, thumbs down emojis flooded the screen. You know how on a Zoom call you can click on the emojis, a smiley emoji and all? Thumbs down from staffers tuning in remotely. Some employees argued that the Democrats managed to win the 2020 election while working remotely, so why bother coming back now? Let them stay home. Really, I'm kind of liking this the more I think about it. I mean, let's pause there for a second. They actually think running a campaign from home is normal. I mean, that's the mindset of a party that's been living in a pandemic bubble for 5 years now. Hey, folks, I have a message for you. Thank goodness the pandemic is over. We got to get back to work. We got to get back to normal workplaces. And look, before the pandemic, when you interview for a job, you're expected to come. Now, yes, granted, there's always been some positions that have been acceptable to work remotely. But that was the exception, not the rule. Now it's almost like it's the rule that you're expected to be able to stay home and work. I mean, they got comfortable hiding behind screens and hashtags. But campaigning is supposed to be about people. It's knocking on doors. It's organizing rallies. It's shaking hands. Not typing Slack messages about democracy dying in darkness from your living room in your pajamas watching a Netflix movie. I mean, even some Democrats couldn't take the whining seriously. Nir Oz, one of Biden's former top advisors, blasted the DNC staffers saying, and this is a quote, "If you think democracy is on the line, working in the office is not a big ask. Get yourselves together, people," she said. Another liberal operative, Monica Vinsky, chimed in. "Everyone should work a traditional campaign before doing a PAC or committee. Translation, quit crying and do your job." It's pretty telling when even Democrats are rolling their eyes at their own party's workforce. Wow. When I first read this story, I thought this is a joke. This is on some satire site. Of course, Republicans had a field day, as you can imagine. RNC Press Secretary Kirsten Pels said, "This is hilarious. DNC staffers are shocked at being expected to show up to work during a midterm campaign cycle. Is this a political committee or a daycare?" Again, I think they're onto something. Let's encourage them to stay at home. The NRCC's Mike Marinella added, DNC staffers are melting down after being told they actually have to show up to work again for the first time in 5 years. I mean, it's classic, but they're not wrong. When the people running your political party can't even handle a return to the office policy, what does that say about their ability to handle real challenges like securing the border? Well, we know they failed miserably at that. Reducing spending. Yep, they failed miserably at that as well. Or protecting our national security. Again, failed. This isn't the first time the DNC's had their workplace drama under Ken Martin's leadership. After the 2024 elections last year, the DNC laid off several post-campaign staffers, sparking another round of clashes with its own union. And earlier this year, Martin was dealing with internal turmoil involving former DNC Vice Chair David Hogg, who reportedly wanted to use his PAC to meddle in Democrat primaries. He wanted to recruit other Democrats to run against Democrats, people who met his litmus test. Martin nearly broke down in tears over the attention, according to reports. This is the party that says they're ready to defend democracy, but they can't even defend their own office morale. It's dysfunction at every level, from the White House to the former Joe Biden White House to the DNC to their local party committees. That's what you've got. But here's the bigger story, and you got to keep this in mind. Democrats have created a culture of entitlement inside of their own ranks. They're the entitlement party. They preach equity, they demand safe spaces, and they celebrate remote inclusion. But when it comes time to do the hard work of running a political operation, suddenly they're the victims. Meanwhile, Republicans, the so-called party of the working class under President Trump, are the ones showing up, working overtime, rebuilding America's energy, rebuilding America's border, rebuilding America's economy. So while DNC staffers are arguing about whether they can handle commuting back to the office, the GOP is focused on lowering costs, reopening factories, and making America strong again. The contrast says it all. Folks, they're a bunch of babies over there. Bottom line, the Democrat Party can't even manage its own office, and yet they want to manage your health care, your business, your kids' schools, our country. Not going to happen. I want to take a minute to talk with you about a place that's just 2 miles from the Gaza border. A place once filled with laughter, olive trees, the sounds of children playing. Today, that same place, the kibbutz of Nir Oz in Israel, southern part of Israel, echoes with the hum of construction. Rebuilding from ashes left behind by Hamas terrorists on October the 7th, 2023. It's been more than 2 years since that very dark morning when Hamas militants invaded Nir Oz, murdering, kidnapping over 100 of its residents. For survivors like Irit Lahav, every nail hammered and every wall rebuilt comes with the sound of memories that never quite fade, she said. And talking with the New York Post, she said, "I was born here. I love this kibbutz. I want to make it alive, full of energy and happy again, but every night I'm still afraid." And you can't blame her, can you? Nir Oz was one of the communities hit hardest on that horrific day. Of the 1,139 Israelis killed and roughly 240 kidnapped across the country, 123 came from this single kibbutz. Hamas gunmen stormed through its homes, setting many on fire, dragging residents from safe rooms, taking families, including children, across the border into Gaza. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is I happened to see this in the New York Post, but I also have been keeping up with Nir Oz because I was able to visit Nir Oz literally a few months after the attack. It was one of the places that Mike Gallagher and I were taken to when we went over to do our broadcast following the attacks. We literally stood in some of these burned out homes. I remember vividly one of the homes, we walked over, we looked in the windows that had all been broken out, and part of the home was burned out. You could see the black all on the walls and everything, and there was a coffee mug sitting on the table. And I thought, somebody got up that morning, had their cup of coffee like they normally did, and did not get to finish it. This lady, Lahav, recalls how soldiers couldn't even reach Nir Oz until that evening, hours after the bloodshed began. By then, the damage was unimaginable. We've heard a lot of talk about the music festival. Nir Oz was attacked, one of the first places attacked, even prior to the music festival. Today, the scars are everywhere. Bullet holes in the walls, again, charred ruins where families' homes once stood, kitchens frozen in time like the coffee cup I'm describing to you. But amidst the wreckage, there's renewal. 14 families have returned. 10 new homes are being built for 30 young couples waiting to come back. Others live temporarily in classrooms or community centers, anything that's still standing. Lahav says 60% of the houses are total loss, completely burned down, so even those who want to come back need to renovate. It's one house at a time, one act of defiance at a time. For Irit Lahav, coming home wasn't easy. She told the New York Post about her parents, how they had helped found Nir Oz decades ago. After her house was rebuilt last May, she moved back alone, the only soul in her neighborhood. She told reporters, even if I would shout, nobody would hear me. Imagine that, living alone in the ruins of your childhood community, haunted by the memory of neighbors who were murdered, and yet you determine you're going to rebuild your community. Lahav describes her nights now, locking doors again, closing every window, checking over her shoulder, not for missiles, but for the fear that the terrorists might return. I don't know how you do it, honestly. And again, she can look just across the field and see the fences going into Gaza. The Israeli government has allowed Lahav to keep both her home in Nir Oz and a small apartment an hour or so away in another village, just in case she needs to escape. She admits, she says, it's been 6 months and I'm still afraid every night. Would I want to live in a place where I'm scared all my life? What kind of quality of life would I have? The question, can I ever feel safe again? And that's a valid question for her. The Trump administration's new peace framework for the region offers hope, but its success depends on Hamas's actually disarming, something that hasn't happened yet. Every day, IDF soldiers confront incursions from armed militants trying to sneak past the separation line. So while rebuilding continues in Nir Oz, security remains fragile, and the emotional wounds even more so. Again, I can't imagine it, what those poor people went through, and to move back there knowing that across the field you've got terrorists still who have not disarmed yet. Before the massacre, Lahav wasn't just a resident. She was a bridge builder. She volunteered to escort Palestinians from Gaza to Israeli hospitals for medical care. She believed deeply in peace and shared humanity. That belief, of course, was shattered on October the 7th. She said, I thought the people over there, the Palestinians, are good people like me. Now, after October the 7th, I understand they really, really hate us. They think that rape, murder, and kidnapping is legitimate. That's the cruel tragedy of this war, isn't it? For years, many Israelis, especially in the kibbutz, championed coexistence. They believed goodwill could overcome hatred, but Hamas made clear that peace was never its goal. Even for those returning, I just can't imagine the emotional cost. Lahav points to a neighbor's house across from her own. The woman's husband was murdered. Her daughter was kidnapped and later released. Her home is ready, but she hasn't spent a single night there. She said she's hesitant. It's emotionally very difficult. And who wouldn't blame her? I mean, it's like waking up from a bad nightmare and realizing it really wasn't a nightmare. It happened. It was reality. Still, she says that she finds small reasons to stay. The trees. She said, I love the trees. Used to be one of the 14 botanical gardens of Israel. Now it's difficult to see, but it was very beautiful. And I can see that. I can understand that because it was. It was a beautiful area. A lot of growth. It was a farming area. You saw these huge fields of crops that when we were there had just been deserted. There's nobody there to work them. Those trees, she said, were planted by her parents when Nir Oz was founded. They've outlasted rockets. They've outlasted invasions. They've outlasted many, many tragedies. And this most recent one, of course, the biggest. And maybe that's what Nir Oz represents today. A living symbol of resilience, a reminder that even when evil tries to wipe you out, faith and courage can take root again. Maybe so. I hope that the people of this kibbutz can find a way to make it back to their home and to live comfortably again. That would be my prayer for this kibbutz, Nir Oz. Keep them in your prayers as well. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. On our guest line today, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good, Joey. I'm just continuing to pray that the temperatures keep creeping up and up and up. It's been cold this week. I mean, really cold.
It has been very cold for sure. But, hey, it's middle of November. I guess maybe it's time for it to start getting a little cooler. But yeah, it's kind of like it just went from warm to cold just overnight, which it did literally. Now it's warmed back up a bit. But we shall see. So late last night, President Trump signed the House-passed spending package, which paved the way for the federal government to reopen after 43 days. So kind of walk us through this and give us a glimpse of how you think this probably is looking behind the scenes. I mean, what's next? Did federal workers just get up this morning and go back to work, or what? How do you reopen a government?
Well, I think that's kind of what it is. It's like everybody better set their alarm, because there's a lot of work to be done. 40 plus days of backlogged work. And imagine the emails. Yeah. I don't know about you, but if I don't check my emails a few times a day, it backs up. But yeah, the government needs to get to work. I'm glad the Democrats finally figured out that, the American people pay everybody a job to get done, and they decided to get back to work. From what I hear, basically they've announced that the workers will be paid 70% of what they're due, and then they'll just to get the money to them. And then, so it'll be kind of an estimate, and they'll shore up with the last 30% so that people can start paying their bills. And I think there's going to be a lot of talk about how the Democrats don't repeat this come January.
Yeah.
And so, I really hope people don't forget with the holidays coming on, and, Thanksgiving and Christmas feel the pain that the Democrats inflicted on the American people, and continue to be vocal to them that this should not be an encore performance as soon as this continuing resolution ends. Yeah, which is the end of January, as you mentioned. For most of it, there were some items, military and some things that were funded through the end of the fiscal year next fall. But, here's my observation on this, and I want to get your take. It appeared to me that the Democrats were prepared to continue the shutdown regardless of the fact that SNAP benefits were not going to be paid.
that people could literally be hungry. But I think what really got their attention is when things really got chaotic at airports, when travel started being disrupted. Do you have that same take on this, that's what really got their attention?
Joey, I do, because it's, everybody was worried about the dangers of flying at that point, right?
Yep.
Like air traffic controllers were walking off the job. They were, calling in sick. They were diminishing the amount of flights. It was going to eventually go to 10%. Thousands of flights canceled each day. What does that mean, and how were they going to explain to the American public if a crash occurred because of this? And I think that you're right. That's what started getting them really, really nervous. But I agree with you. The fact that, children were not eating and elderly were not eating didn't bother them at all.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that, I'm surprised didn't get a lot more attention. And I think the reason it didn't, Joey, is because so many good people jump in to try to fill the gap.
Right.
As you saw, South Carolina, we activated the 1SC fund. Our non-for-profits and our faith-based communities jumped in. We were, putting more food into food pantries so that could be supplemented. I was out at the pregnancy center in Spartanburg. Alexa Newman's, the one that she runs, they were taking in more and more baby formula.
Yeah.
Even though WIC wasn't stopped, their idea was if parents were having to spend money on baby formula, even though WIC was there, they could come in and get it. They were giving them more than they normally allot so that they could use that money to buy other foods that they may need. So again, a big thank you to our faith-based community and our non-for-profits and all of you for donating. So I don't think it got the attention it needed because just like we do as Americans, we step in and help.
Yeah.
But the air traffic, nobody could help. And
Right.
that was becoming, a constant news cycle.
Yeah. Well, and yes, the government is going to reopen again. It's going to be interesting to watch exactly how this works. But there was a lot of damage done. I mean, if you take just the air travel alone, the flights canceled, that's a lot of money, and the airlines will never get that back.
Exactly. And, and think about all the, the workers, private industry is not like government. When you don't have a good year, that trickles down to your employees,
Yep.
right? That
Right.
means that maybe better health benefits that they would have given due to profits are now not there. Additions into 401k plans that companies could have provided if they had a good bottom line year, not there. Other incentives for employees will not be there because that money is lost. And I hope people kind of think that through, and the employees that work for those airlines, which that's a lot of employees, remember the pain that the Democrats inflicted on them.
Yeah, exactly. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette with me today. During the signing ceremony late last night, the president again called for the elimination of the filibuster rule, which requires the 60 votes in the Senate. Do you think this is a good idea?
I agree with what the president is saying. I think the filibuster in itself is a good idea, but I understand exactly what the president is saying. The Democrat Party is now not the it's not the party that it once was.
Yeah.
It is a socialist party. And as soon as they can gain control of the Senate again, they will do it. And
Yeah.
they will ram everything through that they want. And heaven help us, Joe, we don't know what that will be. And all he is saying is that while we have control, I mean, if they're going to do it anyways, let's at least try to get some great things done to turn around the country and stop letting them, block us at every turn
Right.
and block, the good things that are happening. So I do agree with what he's saying. I think they are absolutely going to do it. I think when you don't have Manchin, you don't have Sinema, more of those moderate Democrats that we're saying, no, that is a step too far. I'm not going to do it. You're seeing they're calling AOC, Cory Booker calling for the step down of Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
And, what is that going to leave? Can you imagine AOC now moving over to the Senate?
Yeah.
She'd be the first one to, vote to end the filibuster.
Of course. Yeah. Chuck Schumer, as radical as we view him, he's not radical enough for them. So that's a very scary thought. Yeah. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, always a pleasure. Appreciate your time today.
Well, Joey, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to warmer weather, and everybody have a safe and wonderful weekend.
Sure thing. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.